Welcome back to part 2. Today we're going to do our first little bit of code and get it working in our web browser and just test that we've got all those kind of bits and pieces working. So let's we've by now you should have your levels.txt file all saved and ready to go. So I'm going to open up my file folder viewer and I need to create a HTML file. And then we're going to create a JavaScript file. And the JavaScript file is the main one that we're going to be working in. It contains all of our programming code. The job of the HTML file is really just to load the JavaScript file, but we need to have it. So I'm actually just going to paste this one in and just have a link to it in the description as well. Because it's only a few lines of code and it's fairly standard stuff. So I'm going to call it index.html, and this is the default name that web browsers will look for. It'll mean you won't have to specify the file name when you're wanting to run it on your phone later on. Right, and this is what the code looks like. So it's just the first part here is specifying this is a HTML file. And then we start HTML code and then the slash. So all instructions in HTML start are contained inside these triangle brackets. And this is what's known as a start tag, and this is an end tag because it's got the slash in front of the name. So the HTML starts here and ends here. And then here we start the header section. The header section finishes here. Here we start the body section, and the body section finishes here. Right, so this is fairly generic default file. If JavaScript doesn't work, it will just produce this error message. Sorry, this requires JavaScript to function. And all that we're doing here. Okay, so this is the one part you might want to customize. All right, platformer game, whatever you want to call it. Whatever word you put here is what appears in the tab on the web browser. Okay, and then here we are just going to, we're actually not even going to have a CSS file. Actually, we are. Yeah, so we'll keep that in, and this I'm going to change to index as well. Okay, so index.css. So loading our CSS, which is just a styling sheet. All we're going to do for that is turn off our margins. Here we're saying load up p5js, sound files, and then find the index file, which is where we're going to put all of our code. All right, so I'm just going to give you this HTML file, this CSS file, and the p5 files as well. So index.html, I'm going to create one more file. Yeah, it's a new text file, and then the CSS file. This is saying just for the body section, for the body tag and the HTML tag, 0 the margin and 0 the padding. Okay, so that we don't have kind of icky white borders happening on the edge of our game. We want to be able to fill up the whole screen. So I'm going to file and save that. Oops, index.css. Okay. Then the p5 files. So you can get these from the p5js website, which would be where you'd get kind of a more up-to-date version of it than whatever I have. All right, so if we go to p5js.org and go to download, so we can just get individual files. So I'm just going to get the p5min.js. So I click on that, and then I'm going to save that. Here's my video folder. I'm just going to save it into that folder there. And we need the we need the sound file. Maybe, oh yeah, the sound file is in p5js complete. So maybe I need to download that. Let's do that. I'm just going to save this to my desktop. This is a zip file. And then if I look on my desktop here, okay, so p5js zip. So I'm just going to double click that, go into it and find add-ons. There it is, p5 sound min.js. And I'm going to copy that to the desktop so that I can now copy it across into video. And that's all ready to go. So those are the files that we need to make p5js work. So your file and folder configuration should now look like you have an assets folder with all of your artwork. You have an index.css, an index.html, your levels file, levels.txt that you made after the previous video, so p5.min.js and p5.sound.min.js. If you can't see these file folder extensions, right, then that's what they would look like. But yes, you can come up to Windows, to your Explorer, go to View, and turn on file name extensions to be able to see those. Right, so that is all done. I'm going to leave p5js website open, but I'm going to go to the reference page. This will be something that we will use frequently to check how different commands work when the time comes that we want to make some changes. And let's come back to our VS Code. All right, so we've got all these files. The last file that we need to create is our JavaScript file. So let's just do that. File, new text file, and straight away I'm just going to save it as index.js, all lowercase. It's worth pointing out that these file folder names here referenced in the HTML have to be a perfect match. So the uppercasing, lowercasing, all punctuation has to be a perfect match to the actual file names themselves, or it won't be able to find the file to load it. Right, so what do I want to put inside my JavaScript file? Right now, just so that we can test that the thing works, we're going to quickly create two different functions. I'll talk about what functions are in a second. We'll just test that this works first. So I'm going to write the word function, put in a space, and then the word setup, open round brackets, close round brackets, open curly braces, and then close curly braces. Now VS Code, as soon as you are opening one, automatically puts the closing one for you, and then leaves the typing cursor in between them. So if I type, you can see that I'm typing between the open curly brace that I had typed and the closing curly brace that it automatically put there for me. So right now I'm just going to leave this as an empty function, or insert a new line, and that's it. I'm going to create another function called draw, and again have the round brackets and the curly braces there. To test my VS Code is actually working, let's just type in draw the word circle and 100, 100. And I'm going to go to file and save. I'm not actually sure that's going to work. I'm starting right at the very beginning. Yeah, let's put in one more command first. Let's go into our setup, and we're going to create the canvas that we're going to be drawing on. So the command for that is create canvas. Now canvas has an uppercase C, canvas. And what size do we want our canvas to be? Yeah, actually my circle command's not correct. I want the canvas to be the full width of the screen window and the full height of the screen height. So that is window width with a capital W, comma window height with a capital H. Now because it's been a long time since I've used the circle command, let's check the documentation to figure out how to make this work, and it's a good introduction to the documentation as well. So I'll come here to the reference, and if I scroll through here, we can see that there's things here about colors and environments. There's shapes, which will include circle that we'll use in a second, but there's all sorts of other shapes. There's some constants here, pi, quarter pi, various structure and DOM things. So DOM stands for Document Object Model, which basically refers to your HTML. There's all kinds of instructions for rendering, transforming, so rotating, resizing, saving things to files and other data storage systems, converting. Here we can see we can access things like the accelerometer and rotation, the keyboard and the mouse. So yeah, there's the reference website, very useful. You'll find all the different capabilities of p5js in here. So I'm going to go to so if you know something exists, you can just type in this in the search bar here, and like if I type circle, you can see that it appears, or you can scroll down to where it was, click on it, and here's the page that tells you how to draw a circle. Right, and so we can see here, draws a circle on the canvas. The circle is a round shape. Every point from the edge of the circle is the same distance from its center, blah, 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 as you would expect. There's some example code, right? So circle 30, 30, 20. And here, there's a description of the various parameters, right? The different values that we can give to the circle command that determine its size and shape. So the x is the x coordinate of the center of the circle. The y is the y coordinate of the center of the circle, and the diameter, which is what I was missing, of the circle. All right, because what I was unsure about was whether it was a radius or a diameter, and there we go. We've got the answer to the question. We need a diameter. So let's take a look at this x and y coordinate system and kind of how does that all work. That's not what we want. We can close that. I want to go to my VS Code. Okay, so I need 3 parameters. I want my x location, so I was going to put 200. I want my y location, and I need a diameter, so I'm going to put in 50. It's customary in JavaScript to end each command with a semicolon. So that's what I've got there. And so now I'm just going to save. I've got if you've got a big bold dot here on your file tab, it means that you have unsaved changes. So unlike things like Google Docs, VS Code does not save as you type. You have to save manually. So you can either do Control S, or you can come up to your file menu and say save. All right, now how can I see what this looks like? Let's test my code. I'm going to come to my index.html file, right click, and come down to open with live server. So this is the thing that we installed, the extension in the previous video. If I open with live server, and then come back to my web browser, we can see here we've got platformer, which was that text that I typed in the title field of the HTML on the tab, and we can see here that we have a circle. So my code works. Okay, so there we go. I have p5js. It is properly installed, and I have a circle drawn on the screen. So that's your achievement task for this video. What I will just say is a couple of other quick things. So obviously, if I change this diameter, now a nice thing about this extension that we're using is it will auto reload the web browser. So 100 here, and if I just go File, Save, and I now switch back to my web browser, we can see the circle has automatically reloaded and is resized. The other thing is to talk about the X and Y coordinates. So this is slightly different to what you might be used to with math. 0, 0, so the 0 X coordinate and the 0 Y coordinate is actually the top left corner of your web browser. Right, and so X increases as you move to the right, Y increases as you move down Okay, so this is different to what you're used to when you're drawing charts or graphs in math. Y increases coming down. X increases moving to the right. That's what you're used to, that one, but the Y is back to front. Okay, so that's why with 200, 200, it's come across X 200 and then come down 200 pixels. If I change this so that the Y value is 0 and save it and go back, you can see there that it is at the top of the screen, not the bottom of the screen. Okay, so if you've got your circle drawing, then your p5js is successfully installed and you have all of your different files talking to each other correctly. So error check all of that, and then we will move on to the third video.